going. There we go. Okay, so when you think of Chernobyl, you hear the word Chernobyl, what does it mean to you? What kind of thoughts go through your head after being there how many times?
I've been there once, in 2009. So having been there, originally my thoughts when I heard Chernobyl were always the disaster. But now having gone there, I understand that it's not just the reactor, it's also a city as well, which I don't think most people know.
Right. And you were telling me, I was very intrigued by the people photos. They almost look like paintings, but I think you said you wanted to bring a human element into the exhibit as well?
Yes, for a couple of reasons. I mean, most of the photos are objects or are just rooms inside most of the buildings in Pripyat, which is the dead city near Chernobyl that was evacuated 25 years ago and no one has gone back to. And a lot of times those photos can be kind of empty and hollow, and people don't make a connection to that type of photo. For those of us who know what this location is, we can kind of weave a story around those photos, but for those especially who were born 1990 and later, who may not even know about the disaster, there's nothing to connect them to that. So by having the photos, say, in the one room of the elderly ladies who still live in some of the villages around the Chernobyl, and by also having QR codes that link to either YouTube videos of the disaster or perhaps something more personal like pierogi recipes, or one of them links to a YouTube video of dancers doing a Ukrainian dance, the hopag. I was hoping that people would then get a more personal exhibit out of it, that they would then start to take Ukrainian culture and mix it in with the photos and get something more out of this exhibit.
Okay. And are you concerned about, you were saying that the zone is being opened up to tourism and what kind of impact that may have?
Yeah, I am actually. I just find that before, when you went to the zone, especially when we went in 2009, the only way you got into the zone, or at least the way they told us you got into the zone, is you had to be approved to go, and you would either get in as a photojournalist or a scientist or a teacher, somebody who is going to be educating people or learning from the experience. We went as photojournalists because we would be putting on an educational exhibit out of it and writing books, and which is what we've done. Now, by having it opened up to tourists don't have as much of a personal take on going to see this location as someone perhaps like Matthew and myself do, where we have gone to many urban locations and gone to many type of ghost buildings and cities, and we have a different way of exploring them. We don't touch anything, we don't move anything, we don't take souvenirs. We are there to just document what we see and present it to the rest of the world and let them tell the story. We do not interact with it in any way. We're not the story. Tourism is very different. These are just regular people coming in, and I would be tempted as a regular person to say, you know, the school that has 1,000 gas masks sitting there and they're 20 years old and they look pretty cool, they're very military looking, yeah, the temptation is there to take one. Yeah. But the thing is, if everybody took one, there won't be anything left, and the history then is gone. So these are things that should be left there for the next person to see, and so on, so that the story continues.
Okay. And lastly, what happened in Japan, the timing is very close to the big anniversary of Chernobyl.
Yes.
Do you think it's actually helped people realize the dangers of a nuclear disaster, and also that the memory of Chernobyl will not fade away?
Yes, definitely. I think it did a lot of different things. One, it brought Chernobyl and the anniversary to the forefront, especially when they announced that Fukushima had gone to level 7, which surprised even me, because I've been to Chernobyl, and then I looked at what was happening in Japan, and I just couldn't see how they were similar, because I had seen a dead city that nobody had been in 23 years, and meanwhile Japan is just so fresh and new, and I really hope it doesn't turn into Chernobyl. I'd hate to see a whole part of Japan turn into that. But I think the other thing it did is it raised awareness for people who also had never heard of Chernobyl, had never known about this disaster happening, again, more younger generation. And I think it brought a lot more pressure on the Japanese to really rein in what's going on there and try to fix it as soon as possible now that they're being compared to the worst nuclear disaster in history.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.